Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun. I am speaking about the cost of living crisis, the help given to the people of the United Kingdom, the help, the financial help, and also other forms of help. And this is the continuation of the videos I have actually recorded. And thank you to everybody who have been watching my video to support, and also those who have subscribed and shared with family and friends, and those who have been doing different things to give feedback, positive and also constructive, which may not necessarily be positive, but everything is positive if it is done constructively. It may not be complimentary, but it is always constructive. Leave comments below. Continue to leave comments below, and also hit notification bell and like the videos. Today we'll be talking about mental health, where we left yesterday, and the cost of living has different aspect to how it affects the British people, and how the British people is impacted by the cost of living crisis. Is also how the people of the world is impacted by the cost of living crisis. So what happens in the United Kingdom is most likely to happen in the rest of the world. So it is actually humanitarian, and everyone listening to this program should remember that it is an opportunity to look after yourself, to value your life, and to get every help you can. And young people in the United Kingdom are committing suicide more and more, which means they're dying, they're killing themselves. But if you value your life, you don't commit suicide, you don't kill other people, you don't subject other people to abuse or to other forms of suffering. So this is actually the impact of mental health on the British people. But let us bear in mind that the British people are actually humans, which means what happens to this country, we are also part of the world, the global system, the global community. We are actually part of the globe in Britain. So the way we suffer in Britain is similar to how we suffer in Europe, the rest of the continents of the world. The way we rejoice is similar also. Black or white, male, female, old and young, the good things we do and the bad things we do. We are responsible for our own actions, or we should take responsibilities, whether you're poor or rich, because the cost of living is poverty driven, or rather caused by poverty. If there was no poverty, the cost of living would not, as a crisis, would not be there. There will always be the cost of living, because life costs money. It also costs resources. So that is normal. What is abnormal if it becomes a crisis where potentially people will start dying, people will start suffering, lives will be destroyed, people losing their jobs, and people failing to access healthcare and public transport, taking their children to school. And this failure to access also food and energy, as well as housing, is something we need to actually pay attention to, because our life matters. Our lives matter. And so it is important to really have a conversation in relation to this. So we look at mental health in the United Kingdom, and there are actually mental health is a form of sickness. When we talk about mental health, we are talking actually about the problem of mental health, and I don't know how many people understand it differently. But when you talk about mental health, you talk about the problem of mental health, really, which is a mental illness. And that's normally, if you talk about physical health, you also talk about how they are affected, because it is an issue. And the cost of living is creating this problem, which is created by the government failure to run society in a proper way, while allowing capitalism to become extreme, privatizing the public sector, and that is why the government can no longer. I mean, if you have already privatized the economy, what makes you think, if you are a government, you have already solved off? Privatization sounds really very stylish, fashionable, but what it simply means is that the UK government has sold off the country to private owners, including land, including houses, property. Actually, land is a type of property. British people have lost track of what land may or may not be, and the very, very few who own land are actually the one. I mean, the number one source of wealth is actually land in the United Kingdom, and for some reason, if you turn on the news today, you will never hear the word land. You may hear of property prices to mean housing. It doesn't mean land, because land is a hidden agenda, but it is the actual wealth. If somebody is rich, then because they have land. If you have property without land, then that land not being used creates problems with your ownership of your house or property, which is understood generally to be housing, to be things like houses, and other form of thing. But property normally means houses, or housing, whatever you call it, because housing as a concept is different, because it's how people access and occupy property. But property can normally mean development, buying, selling, renovation, things like that, as the capital system. But actually, the actual meaning of property is land, and other form of property, of course, like food, energy. These are actually forms of wealth. They are factors of development, and this is now missing because the minority of the population who are super rich own it, and therefore the rest of the world do not have access to it, and that is what is creating this. What is a symptom of the cost of living crisis, a symptom of poverty, a symptom of social injustice. So if you are mentally ill, we said you can actually get help from some charities in the UK here. So if you want to find out, watch the rest of the video in this series. I will not be repeating some of the information. Normally, when people are suffering from mental illness, they try to maintain confidentiality. They like to be anonymous, but the nature of services, actually, they are free, they are also anonymous, they are confidential, and this applies wherever you are in the United Kingdom. And sometimes people also experience situation of emergencies, and you can also find information if you watch the rest of the video, you will find that I've actually pointed you to a government website, to other charities where you can find information to deal with health situation. There is an emergency where you probably dial 999 with your health, or 111. You can go to your GP and find out. Sometimes you are the one suffering, or somebody you know, or somebody you live with, family or friends. You can also help as a community. You can dial 999, or you can go to Accident and Emergency A&E here in the United Kingdom. These are some of the places you can go to get help. But all these are connected to the cost of living, actually, because healthcare is supposed to be free at the point of use. Actually, if you need it, you should get it. Sometimes in practice, that doesn't work. If you watch the rest of the video, I've also discussed the problem with the healthcare system. And you can visit this website, and you can actually help somebody else by taking them, supporting them into the hospital, and to get help wherever help might. If you go to organization like Mind, which is, if you watch the rest of the video, I've actually explained what these organizations do. Watch those other videos in addition to this. This organization like Mind, actually they also deal with emergency. If a situation is urgent involving mental health, you can access these services on their website, and also look at the other sources of information in the video, in the previous video. So if you watch the rest of the other video, you will find citizen advice, for example, where you can actually contact citizen advice consumer helpline, and you can get more help from them. They are trained advisors. They are working, helping you. Sometimes on the phone, they actually use different channels, and you can use the phone. You can actually use online chats or by face-to-face, and it's important for you to do your best to get this help. Although if you watch the rest of the video, I actually pointed out how challenging it is to get this help, but also I have encouraged people to do their best to get this help. Also, if you watch the rest of the video, I spoke about grants and benefits which the government gives through different sources. If you watch the rest of the video, you will discover that I have actually discussed sources of help to help with energy bills, and also I discussed there that the energy bills and debts are actually priority debts and bills. So I have also said that it's best to focus on priority information, and also address the issues, and as a means of managing your money, your income, and it's about looking after your income generally. Whatever, I mean, even if you're getting only a small amount, I've already said the problem of the cost of living is mainly because of poverty, and which means people are on low income. Other source of poverty may be people lack skill of managing money. Somebody can give you £1 million today. 6 months later, you will be in debt, because the society is very complex. It doesn't mean you're stupid, but society has just gone complex. So the government and also ordinary people can now come together to try and help each other. Government, especially the government, because the government is running the country. So the government should be doing this, funding organizations for individuals, families even. Okay. The government can actually fund family programs where family members can run their own projects to self-learn, because with internet, information and actually learning can be done online. But still, you need that basic support And these are some of the things you can discuss with your MPs, your local leaders, if they can listen. If they cannot listen, you can actually form this family discussion. I mean, 2 or 3 people actually meeting somewhere to discuss this issue, because we need to talk about it and learn about it, be experts on this situation, so that you get more support. I've actually discussed these points in the other videos, so watch the other videos to try and follow what I've been talking about. Part of the problem with income is actually debt, because you see, if you are in debt, it means if you get maybe £100 and you have 20 pounds, you have to pay debt for 20 pounds. You are now reduced from 100 to 80 pounds. So debt is a major problem impacting income in relation to the cost of living crisis. So it is really important for you, if you live in the UK or wherever you live, to be an expert on debt. There are debt advisors, but like I said in the other videos, also repeating here, that is often is not easy to find this, because the cycle of problem is continuous. The government needs to finance debt advisors, debt advisory organization in the local authorities, which are actually, non-profit organizations. Some of them are actually private companies. Some of them are lawyers, but to provide public service, they have to be funded by the government. And if you struggle to get that, you need to go online or you look for information, because you have to manage your life, you have to survive. And if you watch the rest of my video, I've been really discussing many different situations to alert people, because if you are aware of the problem, then you prepare differently. And valuing your life is important. Going back to where we began, valuing your life is the starting point, because even in the hospital, even in communities, whether involving your children in school or public transport or food or energy, if you value your life, you're going to get more strength to defend your life and look for information, work with your children if you have children, if you have family, work with family. If you have friends, work with friends to talk about the issues. Take notes, do a research. Research simply means looking online, even on your mobile phone. I know it's costly because you need internet. Some people cannot afford internet because they don't have money, and so debt is a very major factor. You need to be an expert on debt. Even being an expert, begin with the baby step. You just learn what, for example, collecting debt information is really important. If you're in debt, collect debt information, and you can contact your creditors. Creditors are the people who lend you money. These are some basic information which actually helps. And this information you can find in England. You can also find in Wales. What you find in England, you're most likely to find in Wales, but also in Northern Ireland, in Scotland. And just leave a comment below if you need me to do research and talk about a subject specifically to do with maybe debt. I'm not saying I'm going to do it because it takes a long time to do research and compile information. But if you need me to talk about it specifically, then I can talk about something specific, because I know how to do research and also how to compile information and also to do presentation on these materials. So going forward, we can do that. So in terms of debt, you can make a list of all your debts. It may sound simple, but take a pen and a paper, or if you have a laptop, you can just Google document or just Microsoft Office or whatever. You just set a simple page. You open a simple page and write things. And list your debts. If you have 4 or 5 debts, maybe An example of that would be rent arrears. If rent arrears means you didn't pay your rent when you should. Maybe if you pay your rent every week, maybe you're living in a 3 or 4 bedroom house, and every month probably you pay 2,000, maybe 1,500 pounds. And rent is probably the most expensive aspect of household expenses. It's more expensive than energy, and energy is just the most essential alongside food and water, and that's why they are quite controversial. But rent is a very expensive element of the cost of living, although people may not really realize that if you work, if you don't work, rent is expensive. Because if you miss paying rent for 3 months, you probably be in debt. You create a rent arrears, and it's a priority debt, because if you don't pay your rent, you can be evicted, especially if you are living in a private property, because there are different types of property in the UK. It's private. There is also social housing given by the government through housing association or the local authorities, which is part of the local government system. Local government, which are statutory organizations, but also voluntary organizations such as charities, housing association is an example. These provide they are more secure property, especially local authority buildings called council housing in the United Kingdom. If you live in the UK, you know it is called council housing. Is the tenancy, the housing status actually secure. You have a secure tenancy in the sense that for your landlord, which is normally the council, the local authority, to evict you, they need to follow certain procedure, and you have more rights because the intention of this policy is to rehouse people who need help, which was good. But now, because of political and ideological reason, the government is shutting down council property, is bringing in something called housing association, which is now a watered down version of social housing. And they have something called assured tenancy or assured short hold tenancy. They are very complex system of housing status, which makes the concept of housing really ridiculous. And try to learn these things bit by bit, which is why I said the cost of living crisis is an opportunity for you to gain some information, to do a study on what happens with housing. This information are online on government website, citizen advice, and shelter, and all these other charities. There are local authorities, the local council itself, which is part of also government website. But the council have their own website anyway. But you type your address and look for your local authority. You get this information in it. So in terms of debt, you can also get your credit report, which is something you can find out about online, and you can do that if it is an option. And you can also contact your creditors. As I already said, creditors are people who lend you money. When money is lent, or some people call it loan, if they have lent you money directly, they become you have to pay it back. But when you incur rent arrears or council tax arrears, council tax is a form of taxation on property. If you live in a property in the UK, you pay council tax. In most cases, some people may or may not. So find out if you move into property. Check your status, whether you're liable to pay council tax or whether you're liable to pay rent. Mysteriously, you may find that you might not be liable to pay rent, but it's very rare. I can't think of a situation where you may not pay rent or council tax, but there are situations where you may not be required to pay rent. But one way or the other, something is paid. If you don't pay, maybe somebody else is paying. The government maybe is paying. There is no such thing as free lunch. So before you contact your creditor, or this creditor could be landlord in terms of debt, because I said rent arrears and council tax, which are really important. But itself, things like energy is also very important. They are priority debts. And there are other forms of priority debts which you can find online, so that you prioritize them. And all the debts are important, but priority debts means sometimes you can go to prison with council tax if you don't pay, and you don't have a good reason for not paying council tax. You can be taken into prison, and that makes it priority debt, because you don't want to go to prison. Or even all the other debts can be taken to court, and going to court is really stressful and so distressing. But that's the situation with debt. And debt is created for different reasons, but fundamentally because of poverty. People who actually fall into complication with debt is poverty. But also, in terms of development, there is a culture of credit economies on the increase, which is complicated. We talk about the credit crisis. The credit crunch of 2007, the financial crisis, the global financial crisis, which occurred in 2007 and 2008, which started in America. It was created by the credit system, which is, in my opinion, it's not the best of systems, but it is established now. People need to really deal with it, because it is already established. It's the primary source of financing, of generating income, actually credit. Unfortunately, that is the reality. But ideally, the government should not really expose poor people into the credit regimes. But like as I speak now, if you are actually on benefit in the United Kingdom, if you are on minimum wage, be prepared to be in debt. But even millionaires and multi-billionaires can be destroyed by the credit system, which is actually being in debt, borrowing money, and either, because once you borrow money, either through credit card or anything, automatically you are in debt. And if you don't pay, you're going to get into more financial problems. Most people who borrow money struggle to pay it back. Sometimes they borrow money from family members. These are maybe non-priority debt, but sometimes it depends on the circumstance. If your relationship with your family and friends are really essential for you, then it might be a priority debt. For example, if you are suffering from mental illness and you need support from your family, if you borrow money from them and don't pay it back, your family relationship may break down, and your marriage may also break down. Your relation with your siblings, with your children may break down. And that makes it a very serious thing, because sometimes when there's a crisis, like during the cost of living, family support is essential, and credit can actually destroy this relationship. So arguably, you may say it could be a priority debt. Depends how valuable the situation is, the impact, the negativity. And if you're friends with somebody and you borrow money and don't pay it, even if that friendship may end, that friendship may have been built over many years, and the credit system, the credit problem, borrowing money can destroy it if you borrow and don't pay. And this is some of the ideas you can get about credit, and to pay attention. So that's why sometimes I say things like the cost of living is providing opportunity for us to learn, so that we empower ourselves. More information you have, the more capable you are to deal with your life, including healthcare, including accessing the basics necessities managing your money, budgeting, you know, managing things like that, like I said. Now, there are also debt emergencies which people should pay attention to. Things like if you are facing eviction because of rent arrears, you didn't pay your rent and your landlord is asking you to leave. Maybe you have been taken to court already. There's something called Section 21. Go online and find out what Section 21 is. Read about it. If possible, be an expert on Section 21. This was actually laws introduced, I think, probably by the Conservative Party. Because it's actually the kind of law which is scared to make life easier for landlord and make life harder for tenants. And this is a crude type of law which should be withdrawn. The government should find ways of supporting small and medium businesses who are actually landlords, because they need support as well. I have mentioned in the other videos why you could contact your MP or any of the political leaders or policy representative, or you can maybe write a letter to Parliament or to King Charles if you're brave enough. If you write long enough, probably they will answer you. Tell King Charles to tell his government to withdraw Section 21 policies like that, or even to protect poor people from poverty so that they don't really suffer from debt. So part of housing debt can be rent arrears or mortgages. Mortgages is money you borrow to buy a house. So when you buy a house on mortgage, you are actually buying a house on credit, which means you're in debt. You live in a house, but you're in debt. If you don't pay a mortgage, then your house will be repossessed. If you face repossession, that is an example of an emergency with credit. So other factors to look at when you are looking at debt emergencies, sometimes bailiffs. There are somebody called bailiffs. They are agencies of debt recovery. They're there to recover debts. They have certain powers, and if they are coming to take your goods, this is an example of emergency. You need to learn online, maybe also a contact advisor, debt advisor, to support you in situations like this. If it is an emergency, you can really find help. But most importantly, sometimes if you have spare time, you learn about them when the roof is not yet leaking, the roof of credit, of indebtedness, where you're facing the bailiff. The bailiff, for example, the bailiff is not supposed to break into your property. Now, if the bailiff comes, in general, in most cases, the bailiff is coming. If you don't open the door for them, they are not going to force their. Normally, it's advisable when a bailiff comes to, if you have a vehicle, you probably should put it in, lock it up in your garage if you have a garage. Maybe take the car somewhere else. With technology, they may maybe find it somewhere and take it. Normally, they go for cars because it's parked outside. And things in your home, essential things, they can also seize it. Although in theory, if something is essential, you can actually tell the bailiff not to take it. But the law is weak, because these are actually, it's up to the bailiff to listen to you. If they don't listen to you, you have to go to court. If they do something they shouldn't do, you have to take them to court. And if you're poor, you can't take them to court because you may not have access to legal aid. Even if you have legal aid, the money given through legal aid may not be enough to support your court process. These are actually very powerful organizations sometimes, most of the times. The organization which are big enough to give credit also to use bailiffs. and the system is just extremely complex. And sure, these are some of the emergencies, and sometimes your gas or electricity supply is being cut off. This is an emergency, so you need to learn how to deal with such situation. If you are being taken to court, you're being taken to court to recover debt, and that's also an example of emergency. If you are being taken to prison for maybe, for example, failing to pay council tax or child tax credit or debt, or involving child tax credit or working tax credit, I think that is also priority debt. You may be taken to prison. That would be an emergency. If you're facing bankruptcy, which means you will be declared as being financially incapable. It's like the system is telling you that you are actually financially disabled. If you have a record of bankruptcy, you can lose your job if you're working in a certain sector, the sensitive sector. You can actually lose your job. You may lose your home, or you can. Certain things can happen to you if you're in bankruptcy, and it's good for people to learn these elements. Getting credit in the future can be difficult. So, and there are information you can find to see if you can get protection from your creditor. You can avoid your creditors taking action against you. So this is actually information available online. You can look for them. Also, in terms of debt, there is something called breathing space, 60 days breathing space, and there are conditions associated with it. You can check if it is the right thing for you, and you can normally get advice on this from debt advisors to manage the process, to kind of like check if it is something which might work for you, because you can get a breathing space for 60 days where your creditor will not ask for their money. They will not take any action. They will just give you space. And these are some of the things you can actually do to try and deal with your debt. So in terms of breathing space, for example, your creditor, somebody you owe money to, they will not be able to take to contact you in terms of they will not be able to contact you about the debts. So they're going to leave you alone. They will not contact you because to talk about the debt. They're going to leave you alone for 60 days, and they are not going to take any action to make you pay the debt. So, for example, maybe send a bailiff. They are going to leave you alone. These are some of the things they will not be able to do. They will not be doing if you get a breathing space. They will not take action to make you pay your debt. And they are not going to add interest and charges to your debts as well. So that is what breathing space means. And so it's good to check if you're eligible, if you qualify for breathing space. Not everybody can get breathing space. Some people can, some other people cannot get. It's your responsibility to find out, either online or through family and friends who know what they talk about. Sometimes people go to family and friends and they give them wrong advice that may or may not help. If it helps you, it means it makes you feel good for temporarily, but ultimately it's going to create more problems if you are given the wrong advice. So try your best to get that advisors to support you in this situation. But you can actually go on to our government website, such as Citizen Advice. There are other organizations which provide a free debt advice. You can go to their websites. They're in the UK. Find out online. Normally, if you go to government website and Citizen Advice, you will find so many links to other organizations from there. So if you do due diligence, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. especially if you are under pressure, especially if you don't really know how to use the internet very well. Also, you may not have the right equipment. Your mobile phone may not have good connectivity. The internet connection may be a little slow. So in principle, it's going to be complicated for especially the elderly, and also if you're sick, you might have additional problem. But you need to know this is the situation with credit, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. There are different help, including with debt. Some of them are urgent, and you can find out how to get urgent help from wherever they exist. So online, if you go, there are actually, if you there are situations where you can get help urgently. So an example of a situation where you can get urgent help, you can actually contact Citizen Advice, which are actually the biggest advice service in the United Kingdom, with a well-known reputation for helping clients. But if you watch the rest of my video, there are challenges even with Citizen Advice at the moment. If you go to their public website, you get a lot of information, but from there you can build the confidence and also the capacity to contact them. You can contact them online, and you can, like I said in this video and all the other videos. But this is something you can do. So like I said before, an example of emergency in which you can contact Citizen Advice, for example, or a similar debt advisor if you know them. But if, like I said, if you go to Citizen Advice website, or you manage to contact them, to speak to them on the phone, or manage to get an appointment in some way to do a face-to-face support, to get face-to-face processing. They are quite helpful. And the example of urgency, like I said, if the bailiffs are coming around, and if you are being evicted for example, for rent arrears, and if you are being evicted for mortgage arrears, because these are housing, if you're being taken to court for a debt, if your gas or electricity company is threatening to cut you off, and also if you want support to make a list of your debts and things like that. Like I said previously, in terms of debt, it's really important to make a list of all your debts. And so, for example, you can collect together all the information about your debts, such as contracts, and if you are entering into a debt, say you're entering into a rent payment or mortgage payment or car payment, car finance, or you're using a credit card, there is always a contract. In the shop, if you're making, because credit card is also a form of debt, you make contract. Every time you give your credit card to a cashier, you're making a contract to borrow. And sometimes if you can't pay, then you have a situation with credit card, rent arrears, and you have energy and water bills. Like I said, these are actually contracts. There are bills and statements. Bills are actually information on your liabilities to pay, maybe rent or council tax or any other, maybe telephone or mobile or television. These are all examples where you can be incurring bills. These are actually information. You gather together all this information about your debt, and which may include rent arrears, credit cards, and council tax arrears, energy and water bills. So the money you have borrowed from friends and family, like I said before, and you can make a list of all these debts, and you can write them down. You can write them in detail, the details of all these things. You can do this. This is really therapeutic, because they really strengthen you. it's really empowering to do these exercises because like you are actually giving you some counseling, some kind of like support, self-support. This is also a way of empowering yourself. And so when you get all this information in terms of debt management, this is actually a process leading to debt, your capacity to manage your debt. And so details for things you may make a list of, like to writing them down, writing them in detail in all of the cases. So it may include who the person you owe money, you owe money to. If you borrow money from somebody, you write the name of the individual or the person. The person can be a supermarket, can be a landlord, can be anything. It can be car finance. Car finance, car company can be a legal personality, but it can be an individual, maybe a friend or family. You write their name down. If it is rent arrears, you write the name of your landlord. If it is council tax, you write the name of the council you're paying bill, your council tax, and to whom you may be owing council tax arrears. That's an example. We'll talk about that. That is really important in terms of the cost of living crisis. So people you owe money or you owe something of value, normally it's monetary. People you owe money to are actually your creditor. That's why the whole situation is actually credit, which creates a situation of indebtedness. So when you miss your payment for the first time, you write that down. If it is the first offense, as it were, you write it down as well, and you write how much you owe. This might be in recent statements. You can look for where to look for, how much you owe can be summarized. Every time you receive a statement, these information are likely to be on the face of your bill, and your account or reference number. This might be at the top of your statement. If you open it, what the creditor has done to get the money back. So you keep a record of activities. Or if you phone your creditor, if they phone you, you keep it's best to keep a notebook and a pen. As a participant in the credit economy, turn it into a mini kind of activity. You may have fun doing it, but it's no fun if you are dealing with debt. But if you create the habit, you just write these things down, and you write them down. So, for example, what the creditor has done to get the money back. For example, sending you letters or taking you to court. So if you take a letter, you write it down. You record it down. If it took you to court, you write it down as an incident, the situation you are going through. And the other thing you may need to take into account is people worry a lot. People panic. Some people get panic attack. People get so confused because sometimes situation can be so overwhelming. You are on low income. You're probably sick. Probably you're thinking about your children, whether you're going to feed them, whether you're not going to feed them, and there is also so many deaths, and the whole thing becomes so confusing, so messed up. And one of the things you can avoid is actually to worry about it. Don't worry too much when you see all your debts written down, because they're so overwhelming sometimes. And so the important thing is that you are actually dealing with these situations. So a lot of people actually try to avoid dealing with situations, including especially debt. They think debt will go away, but it will never go away. The more you deal with it, the more you're going to be effective in managing your finances. And also, it's going to be a healing process in terms of stress. It's distressing to actually face the situation and deal with it, and there is support. If you create the habit of helping yourself. If you go to the professional, it's going to be easier because as you try to get information and undertake this activity, actually take action to do these things, keeping record, writing things down, you're going to be more confident. The more confident you are, the more you are going to engage with the professionals who are trying to help you. But if you don't do these things, and they are scattered all over the place, if you go to debt advisors, it's going to be very difficult for them to help you because normally they don't know your problem. You are an expert. Be an authority on your situation because you have the debt. You have taken time to write it down, to actually collect the information. Use a filing system, a physical filing system if you can. If you struggle with computer, try to use manual system. Buy a notebook. Go to a £1 shop, buy notebooks and pens, and maybe a rubber or whatever. You create a mini office in your living room or in your bedroom. Be organized. It's like I said in the rest of the video. I said the cost of living is a crisis. It's an opportunity in many ways. You can become a campaigner. You can actually be an organizer. You see, you can even create a project fundable, which the government can fund. You can create a job for yourself. If you're doing one job you are not in control of, you can set up an organization. Sometimes if you go on the government website, there are grants being given to small and medium businesses. You can start a private business, non-profit business. You can start a charitable charity. You can start a project which you run it alone, maybe cleaner, maybe looking after a child. You can also do training online. Try and improve yourself. Try to be as creative as you can. So there is a way to look at adversity as an opportunity. Debt as a crisis accompanying the cost of living crisis is an example. Also, sometimes if your creditor haven't actually taken you to court within a certain amount of years, I think 6 years, the debt expires. So which means you're no longer liable to pay it back. But normally in practice, your creditors tend to take you to court. But if for some reason they didn't take you to court, there are maybe other rules I may find out and share it with you. But not all debt are payable. Because in some circumstances you may owe somebody money, but according to the law, these debts are no longer payable. For example, if a creditor hasn't taken you to court for 6 years, the debt expires, so they shouldn't ask. Now, if they ask and you respond in practice, if you respond to them, then it will be reactivated. So you need to be aware which debts you are liable to pay. Some debts you may not be liable to pay because they are already expired. So you need to be aware of this information, get advice, look for information, do a study, and find out. So this also relates to your credit reports. Credit reports actually show what money you have borrowed and paid it back. If it shows that you have borrowed money, also you have paid it back. And it's also a good idea to get copies of your credit reports to check you have got the right details for all your debts. So it's about management, really. So you can get 3 copies of your credit reports from the 3 credit agencies. So, like I said, you can get actually free credit reports from the 3 credit agencies. Experian, if you know Experian, Equifax and TransUnion, formerly called Credit. All these are actually agencies dealing with credit report. As for the statutory report as well, it's worth getting reports from all three agencies, as they sometimes have different information. And your credit report might not have the details of all your debts, so you should also look at the information your creditors have sent you. If you have creditor, look at all this information. You need to study them. And so credit report may not show changes in the last 4 to 6 weeks. They also won't show if you have the council tax arrears, unpaid income tax, benefit overpayments, money you owe to family and friends, money you owe to tradespeople like builders or solicitors. Check if you should contact your creditors. So, like I said before, some debts you owe are not payable. So, your creditors have a limited time to take you to court to repay a debt. For most debts, the time limit is 6 years. The time limit restarts if you write to your creditor or make a payment, like I said previously. And if you haven't got court papers after 6 years, your creditor usually can't take you to court. Don't contact the creditor if it's been over 6 years, because they might not be able to force you to pay. It will soon be 6 years, because contacting them might restart the time. So it's important to be vigilant and check if you are in credit, and you check if the time limit has passed or it will pass soon. If you are not sure, get help from your nearest citizen advice and similar organization which deal with debt. The importance of citizen advice is that they are connected to different independent advisors, legal, the law, and also expert legal advisors. And so this is something we can all pay attention to. So in this situation of limitations, the debts can be started bad if after 6 years, and most debts are started bad, which means they should not be asked. Creditors should not ask for the debt. The debt cannot be paid, and so it became due. If you actually contact them or try to pay them, find out when debts become due. The time limit restarts within 6 years. Your if you or someone you are jointly you borrowed jointly with, if you borrow the money with makes a payment, so you trigger the debt after you get in contact to reactivate what was already a dead debt. So if you are borrowed money or a loan or jointly with somebody else, if you actually contact your debtor after 6 years of the debt being started bad, then you decide to kind of like contact your creditor or somebody you borrowed money jointly, contact the creditor, then it will reactivate the credit. So the money you borrowed will be payable again. So your client or someone representing them, you or someone representing you, will write to the creditor accepting that they owe the debt. For some debts, the government can take money from your from your bank account or from your earnings, or you can take benefits even if the debt is started bad. They can do this for overpayment of benefits or tax credits, social fund, loans, unpaid income tax, national insurance, or VAT. You can actually get this type of information from different sources. Understanding about started bad debts and time limits for this, which is actually 6 years. And then things you can say to your creditors also matter. One of the things is communication, a relationship, maintaining some semblance of a smooth relationship with your creditor, trying to contact them, to negotiate with them. But be aware, if the debt is already started bad, if the time limit has already passed, it's best not to contact them in any way, because as soon as you contact them, the time limit will actually start again. You will be liable to pay the debt again. So it's best to pay such attention as much as you can. So you can confirm if you contact your creditor. You should usually try to contact your creditors unless the time limit is for them going to court has passed or will pass soon. Tell them you are trying to deal with your debts and ask them to confirm all the details of your debts. Stop chasing. They should stop chasing you for payments while you work out what you need to do. Stop adding interest and charges so that debt doesn't get any bigger. It's usually better to write or send an email so you have a record of what they say. You can use a template letter to help you write to them. Don't write to your creditors if your debt is old and you think it might be started bad or soon it will be. These are some of the guidelines which you can go online to find, and also you can actually contact professionals who will be in a position to help in one way or the other. So writing to your clients' creditors or debt collectors is important. You can do that. You can use templates from website of different organizations such as Citizen Advice. You can use certain, you can learn from these using templates to write letters, template letters to write to creditors and debt collectors for yourself, or the professional can do it on your behalf. The template takes a letter will ask you or will ask, actually, when you send letter to your creditor, it will ask them to send you documents and details of the debt, to stop trying to collect the debt while your client or you you or somebody you are helping to make a plan. So one of the things you can ask actually to freeze interest and charges. You can pay attention to vulnerable clients, such as being sick or being on low income, or sickness can involve physical or mental illnesses. These are actually clients who are someone like, if you are sick, if you are actually vulnerable, then your creditor should take into account. So you can tell your creditor and your debt collector if you are actually vulnerable. Usually you can deal with vulnerable people more carefully if you are a creditor. But this information also helps creditors, because there are the law, there are policies on debt. It also helps creditors to guide them, because sometimes if they really misbehave, they can face certain consequences. So vulnerable people, actually, you can be considered as being vulnerable if, for example, you are actually disabled or seriously ill, you are pregnant, you are a single parent, you are unemployed, if you have difficulty speaking or understanding English, have mental health problems, and if you are actually having a mental health problem, you might need details of how it makes it harder for you to manage your debt and deal with your creditors. These are some of the situations you pay attention to, which are actually helpful. You can actually ask you can ask you can actually talk about your health or social care. you can actually talk about. So if you're not sure, you can actually, if you're not sure about information about your health condition, you can actually ask your social worker, your social health and social care professional for details on your condition, and communicate this to your advisors. You can communicate this to your creditors, and you can also you can give consent to people who are trying to help you, like the professionals. You can give your consent to them. The debt and mental health evidence from the Money Advice Trust, for example, website. These are actually information you can exchange with this organization. Money Advice Trust is one of the information organization you can interact with, and they may often ask for things like consent to use your health information within the GDPR constraints or requirements. These are some of the things you can consider to do. So also be minded that sometimes you talk to creditors and debt collectors and they refuse to pay attention to guidelines or regulations, even if you as a professional talk to them, or if you talk to them. And normally if they refuse to comply with some of these rules, you can make references, or your advisor can make references to the Financial Conduct Authority, which have rules for creditors and for debt collectors. And you can see the details in different materials. They have Consumer Credit Sourcebook, which is actually to be found on the Financial Conduct Authority's website. And normally the rules says the people concerned should actually give you, or the people helping you and yourself, there are actually, people. There are sometimes if you're in debt, there are representatives who may act on your behalf, or you can be acting on your behalf. Under these circumstances, you are actually to be given details of the amount owed. For example, if you owe money, the details should be given to you. And this is actually specific rules which involve the matter of compliance, so they can actually post taking action for a reasonable period. The problem is actually reasonable may not be understood quickly within law or policy, but normally it's about 30 days. If you work on a repayment plan, there are rules which actually protect your interest, and for you being treated in certain ways with something called forbearance and due consideration, which means they should actually be fair, they should be considerate, and I think also compliant. For example, by freezing interest and other charges which are actually applicable on your credit fundamentals. And these are actually reference, you can look at them. This rule only cover credit agreements. So for example, they don't cover the collection of benefit or payments. They also only apply to creditors whose credit agreement with you is regulated by the Consumer Credit Act. Find out if an agreement is regulated, and all this information can be found in one way or the other, either directly when you visit your website or go to professionals to help. So, and if this if these rules found in such books are broken, then your creditors need to be reminded of the references as contained in the information. So you can actually complain about them breaking the rules, using the organization's complaints procedure. If, say, for example, your creditor doesn't comply, then you follow their procedure of complaint. Then you complain, pinpointing why they are actually being non-compliant with these rules, which they should comply with. You can complain about them breaking these rules, and if you are unhappy with the response, you can actually also complain to the financial ombudsman to find out. You can actually find out how to complain to the financial ombudsman on their website, and or you can actually get help from the professionals to follow this procedure. So you can also complain if a creditor or debt collector breaks the Financial Conduct Authority's principles. You can check these principles on their Financial Conduct Authority's website. Like I said in previous processes, it's quite empowering, sometimes quite liberating for you to do these things. They are challenging, but normally once you do a preliminary reading and you are aware, you support advisors when you go to look for them. So you can, in particular, you can look at things like, there are six, there are actually different kind of principles. So you can pay attention to certain specifics, especially if you're working with your, for example, principle 6 says these creditors have to treat borrowers fairly. The word fair can be understood in different ways. Don't worry if you don't know how to deal with the debts on your list. If you make a plan and stick to it, any debt problem can be managed. This is actually the information, this is the encouragement. The next step is to check which debts to deal with first. So prioritization is really important when dealing with debt. If you're feeling overwhelmed or need help dealing with your debts, contact, for example, your citizen advice, your local citizen advice wherever you live in the United Kingdom. And if you live in the United Kingdom, one of the first organizations you're going to think about is citizen advice. But through them, you will be connected to different debt advisors. Most of them are lawyers. Sometimes they are specialists, but often they give free legal advice on debt. They support you in different ways. So it's really important to do your best. And you can get specialist help also, debt help. But broadly, it is getting increasingly harder to access this help, because if you have your MP, talk to them if you can about the need for the government to fund local charities, because the need has gone up, but the resourcing has gone down. So these organizations struggle considerably. I mean, they struggle desperately to help, but they lack resources. You can look at organizations such as Shelter, for example. You can get specialist debt help from Shelter's consultancy service. This service is for advisors only. So if you are an advisor, you're watching this video, then you can go online, and there are other information which is only for advisors. So if you are an advisor watching this video, then this you pay attention to a situation where certain information is only for you. There are numbers actually from Shelter consultancy services. There are telephone numbers which are only for advisors. We don't give it to clients if you are an advisor. And if you are watching this video, pay attention to that. Is if you think it helps them, leave a comment below and let me know. If you are an advisor watching this in this information, so their opening hours are always there for advisors. I think they can manage, they can survive, and so I will stop this here and carry on next time when we meet. And thank you so much for spending time with me and looking at. Today we have mainly looked at debt. Debt is part of the cost of living crisis, and you can actually do more in the face of actual hardship, and at the back of your mind at policy level, at political level, just you need to remember that the main cause of the cost of living crisis is actually political, is creating poverty. So in each message you try to solve your personal problem, whether you're in the UK, whether you are actually abroad in Europe or in any of the developed world. Whatever happens in terms of information, advice, support in the United Kingdom is more likely than not to be, it's more likely to be similar to your country. And beginning by accessing government website is a good place to start. Government website can help to access government generally, also local authorities in particular. And from these, you can more often than not find local charities. More and more charitable organizations and charities are actually supporting local services in terms of legal advice. Actually, lawyers and some legal advisory organizations are now complementing local services. Government, they partner with government. Government is supposed to finance them so that they give free legal advice to different clients. So once again, thank you for watching this video. Thank you. If you watch it to the end, that would be helpful, and share with family and friends, and subscribe to this channel to support it, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.